Hello, my name is Kelly Rawl, and I'm the coordinator for pre-kindergarten and family engagement. Welcome to today's practical parent education session called Recognizing the Traits of a Healthy Family. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that we can get started. And I'm going to So again, I just want to welcome you to our session. This session was held live last night, so this is actually a recorded session. It would be very helpful to us if you would go to the link you see at the bottom of this screen, https://bit.ly/PAGBOOK, and the P and the A are uppercase letters. It's a very short questionnaire, and when it asks you which session you are watching, then just please put traits of a healthy family or healthy family, something like that, so that we know which session you watched. Take a look at this quote. It was written by William Thayer, and it says, "As are families, so is society. If well ordered, well instructed, and well governed, they are the springs from which go forth the streams of national greatness and prosperity, of civil order and public happiness." That is a lot of antiquated language. We don't really talk like that anymore. So let me try and paraphrase it for you. So our societies are only as strong as our families are. And in order to be strong, our families need to have order, they need to be well informed, and they should be well governed. And if our families are strong, then our communities are strong. If our communities are strong, then our states are strong. And if our states are strong, then our nation will be strong. And when you think about the goals of our nation when it first began, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, then the stronger your family is, the healthier your family is, the more likely you are to meet your goal of happiness. Our objectives for today are pretty simple. Identify and develop your own strengths as a family, learn how the family influences individual members, and develop skills for building on family strengths. So to help you, we have a session trifold here. And in this trifold, you'll see first, here's the quote that we just read and talked about. Then over here are our lesson objectives. Down here at the bottom are some suggested readings for you. These have been recently updated to include more current books and articles. And then there are some places for you to take notes. Before we begin, though, I do want to say that even though I am a trained practical parent education facilitator, I'm in no way claiming to be a perfect parent. I was not a perfect parent when my children were little. I wish I knew then what I know now about parenting. I probably would be a better parent today than I was back then. And however, I'm raising a grandchild now. And so every time we present one of these, or every time we prepare to share this information with you, I learned something new, and I see parenting from a different perspective, and I try to incorporate that into what goes on in our own home. I learn, like I said, I learn something new every time. And so if you go into this with the idea of maybe I'll learn something new today, then hopefully you will, and hopefully that will help you build a stronger, healthier family. So let's think back to when you were little. He comes from a good family. What did that mean when you were growing up? Have you ever heard somebody say that about another person? He comes from a good family. Well, let me give you an example. I can remember back when I first started dating, and I would tell my dad, Dad, this guy asked me on a date to go to the dance this weekend, and I'd like to go. Is it okay from you? Is it okay with you? And he would say, well, who is it? And what makes you even think I'd let you go to a dance anyway? You know, he's always had a little bit of humor going on there. And I would tell him the kid's name, and he would say, and in this particular instance, he said, oh, well, that's the sheriff's son. I know his dad. He comes from a good family. He comes from a good family. So the fact that my father knew his family and they had worked together and he'd met the other members of the family, that family had a good reputation, that qualified them as being a good family. And yes, in fact, he did let me go to the dance with the sheriff's son. But, you know, it's something that I haven't thought about in a long time. And he and my dad was a pretty conservative fellow. And so the idea that he was being somewhat protective of me, he implied that if the young man were not from a good family, then maybe he would not have let me go to the dance with him. So, food for thought, right? Well, as you're thinking of it, how would you define a good family today? You know, when I think about how I might define a good family, and I really haven't thought about this until now, because one thing that I try not to do is sit in judgment of other families. My family is not perfect. I'm not a perfect parent. And so who am I to judge other families? But, you know, what we see of other families is just what they allow us to see. You know, we live in a world of social media, and on social media, we only post the things that we feel comfortable sharing with the other people. Because once you post it, you never know who is going to be reading it or looking at it or saving it or sharing it, or, you know, all of those fun things that we can do on social media. So, again, you know, we don't really see anything except surface level information about other families, unless that's a good friend of yours. So you know more about the inner workings of the families of your good friends, and you know a lot less of the inner workings of the families of people that you are only acquainted with. So just keep that in mind when you're thinking about how you would describe a good family. Is this a family that you know well, or is it a family that you just keep up with on Facebook? So if I were going to define a so-called good family, I might look for someone who is engaged in their kids' lives, in their daily lives. So they go to their football games, or they go to their band concerts or their choir concerts, or I might think, well, they're both employed and they have good jobs, or they have a home or an apartment, and no matter where they live, they keep it clean and orderly. You know, I don't know. Again, all of those things are kind of superficial. They're the things that you can see from the outside looking in. So just know that how you define what a good family is might be different from how I define what a good family is, and that's okay, because good is a relative term and it varies from one person to the next. So remember that the perfect family does not exist, and every family has strengths and weaknesses. So as we talk today about the ideas of a healthy family of today, then remember that all families have trials and tribulations. They have challenges, they have changes they have to work through. And certainly, as a society, we have all experienced many similar challenges and problems over the last couple of years just trying to combat COVID-19. So when we look at another family from the outside looking in, remember that what we see is the tip of the iceberg. The tip of the iceberg that you see above the water is small in comparison to the rest of the iceberg, which is below the surface of the water. So just keep that in mind. We only see a small bit of our of other people's families. And remember that each family, including your own, has individual strengths, and even the healthiest families will have strengths and weaknesses in different areas. So just keep all that in mind as we go forward. Our purpose for today is to help you build a strong, healthy family. And so it's not up to us to decide the status of your family. What we're going to do is show you some characteristics that have been identified by years of research. And these characteristics typically are present in strong, healthy families. And remember, we're not focusing on the weakness of your family, but rather we want you to identify what's good in your family and then build on that. And I'll show you some examples about my own family as we move forward. But let's start with an activity. So if we were in person, I would actually give you circles, large circles for the adults in your family and smaller circles for your children. So if I were filling this out about my family, then where it says self, I would have my name in the middle, and I would say, well, I think I'm a pretty calm and caring and trustworthy person. And then when I think about my spouse, I would say that he is he's strong and he's good with money and he cares about his family. He's very committed to our family. And then we would actually have a third circle, a third adult circle. That would be for my father-in-law. And I would say that he has a lot of history wrapped up in his mind, and that he is so willing to share it with us, and he is he sees himself as the head of the household, and he's very proud, and he can be pretty funny sometimes. And then, as I said before, we have one of our grandchildren living with us, and she's very sensitive. She has a great sense of humor. She can be very fun-loving and very happy, and then she can also be very moody. So, so that's how I think about, those are the strengths, some of the strengths that I see in my family. And so first, what I had to do what we're doing now is we're looking at what are the strengths of the individual people in our family, because those are going to be the things that we can build on, that we can learn from, and that we can figure out if there's something that we need to work on. Now, let's take a look back at that trifold. So when you look here in the middle, you see the characteristics of a healthy family. And when you look at the characteristics of a healthy family, you see that they include develops a sense of trust, teaches respect for self and others, values individual differences, and then you can read the rest of them, but you get the idea. So these are pretty specific statements that if I read through the list, I would like to think that I could check off each one of those as being my individual trait, but I'm sure that there is something that I'm stronger at than the other ones are. Okay, so let's take a look at the characteristics of a healthy family, only we'll look at it a little deeper. But before we do, if you haven't already done so, I would really like for you to sign into our guest book so we know that you've watched our video. The link is https://bit.ly/ P, A, lowercase g, b, o, k. So that's the PA stands for Parent Academy, the G stands for guest, and so it's Parent Academy Guest Book. Okay, so let's take a closer look at some of those characteristics of a healthy family. So these things, all these things that I'm showing you are going to be available in the Parent Academy calendar invitation. So you can go back there anytime and take a look at that and pull up these handouts if you would like to know more. So notice that underneath each characteristic, there are 3 bullets. And do I think that those are the only 3 bullets that are possible? No, certainly not. I think that what develops a sense of trust looks like to you might be a little different than what it looks like to me. But what they listed here is recognizes the need for bonding and attachment and nurtures this relationship throughout the developmental stages of the family. So families go through stages, right? Think about when the adults first come together, maybe they get married. So then they're just a married couple. So then children come along, whether they're biological or they're adopted or they're guardians from another family member. So so then your family grows. And so those are kind of like the developmental stages. And as your kids grow, then your kids go through developmental stages. And it just becomes a growth process that begins at the beginning of the adult relationship. Lots of things can happen along the way to change the stage of your family. And that's okay, that's normal. But what we, if we continue reading to the second bullet, fosters trust in self, in others, and in society. So my husband does foster trust. He trusts himself, he trusts his own intuition. He backs me up and he helps me trust myself sometimes when I might waver in that. And then as adults, hopefully other people look to us and trust us as well. And I think that one thing he and I have both learned is that we both recognize that trust can be broken, but it can also be rebuilt, reestablished. So each characteristic has 3 bullets under it that describe what it means. So what I encourage you to do, and this is what I'll do with my husband too, is we'll look at this particular handout and we'll say, well, look at this. Believes in family commitment. Let's read those. Commits to family time and togetherness while respecting the need for autonomy, affirms and supports one another, and displays a sense of spontaneity and humor. Well, I thought we had all of those in a nutshell, but when we got to the third one, I think to myself, displays a sense of spontaneity and humor. That might be something that we could work on. So I might highlight that as something, but it's grounded in the strengths of the other two characteristics. So I might look at something else like develops problem solving skills, and I might read all of those bullets and say, oh, I think as a family, we do this really well, and that's a strength. So as a family, I encourage you to read over this list and figure out what the strengths are of your family and how you can help build or facilitate, develop these other characteristics of a healthy family over time. Remember that you're not going to snap your fingers and suddenly have all of these characteristics. It just isn't going to happen. Everybody is at a different starting point, and every family will need time to develop those trusting relationships, to prove that you're committed to the family, to foster a sense of roots and belonging. So all of these things are, they're going to take time to develop in your family. So I just encourage you to start small, bite up a small chunk, and then move forward. Okay? So remember, this is that original list of the traits of a healthy family. And no one family has all of these. There is not a perfect family on the face of the earth. Keep in mind that we can always work to be a stronger, healthier family. And as we wrap things up for today, I would just encourage you to start with that activity that we did in the beginning. Recognize the strengths of the individuals in your family, because it's on those strengths that you're going to be able to build the other strengths. And then, but don't have unrealistic expectations that your family will exhibit all of the strengths in all of the areas. So also remember that families can be healthy regardless of their unique structures. So think about my family. It's my husband and myself, as well as my father-in-law and our 15-year-old granddaughter. So not everybody's family is built like that. We're a little bit different. And that's okay. And that is the phase of life that we're in right now. And, in 10 years from now, it'll look different. Remember, it's not about the quantity of strengths that your family has. It is about your willingness to recognize the strengths of the individuals and build on those and develop those. So this brings us to the end of our session for today. Thank you again for sticking with me through the end of this session. I hope that you'll take some time to do some of the activities that we did together today, and start to develop more strengths in your family. And then also don't forget to sign into our guest book. You can see the link right there at the bottom of the slide. And finally, I want to encourage you to go to the HEB ISD website and look under Parents and Students for Family Engagement. And from there, you'll be able to click on Parent Academy. Go and check out our Parent Academy website. It actually has recorded sessions from last year. It has a calendar with the current sessions that we're offering this year. And those offerings actually are changing all the time. So be sure you check back. Our next practical parent education class is on October 24th. And we will be working on developing and maintaining trust within your family. That was one of those traits of a healthy family. So we're going to branch out from what we did today and look at building trust within the family structure. I hope you'll join us for that presentation. And I wish you all a very happy and healthy and successful school year. So please let us know if there's anything else we can do. The Family Engagement Department is here to support you. Thank you very much and have a great day. Bye.